What's up everybody, welcome to another episode of B is for Build. I'm Chris and today we are going to be building some DIY window louvers for the back window of my BRZ. If you guys remember back from the concept rendering episode, we had these awesome window louvers that were like on this back window, and I got some metal and I got a rivet gun and it's time to make one of these bad boys. Stay tuned. Alright, first things first with this window. You guys don't complain about the overspray on the back window. I'll clean it up after we do our next paint job. Right after we do the window louvers, we got to do another paint job so we can match the concept rendering that we did. So I'm just leaving the window dirty because we're probably going to scuff it up quite a bit with this project. The next thing is with the window louvers, I kind of cheated. I have window louvers sitting at home for my Mustang project. So what I did was I brought them into the shop, and I'm going to model these ones off of those ones, but I'll give you guys all the secret cheat codes so you can do these at home. Let me grab them. Alright, so these are Wolfpack window louvers for a Mustang. It's a two-piece setup. I believe this is the top piece, and it would go up to the top of your window like this and kind of run down the end line. But here's what we have that I've learned about this. It's comprised of a bunch of slats of sheet metal that go across like this. They're roughly like 50 inches by about 4 3/4 inches. In the middle, you have a support bar that goes down, and then this has foam on it and it rests on your back window. As well as on the sides, you have these side rails that rest on your back window. So what we're gonna get started with is, if you look at this, you need to have some side rails. And on the Mustang, the side rails are completely straight, and that would be awesome if that was the case on this car, but they're not. So the first thing that I'm gonna go ahead and get started on is building some side rails. And I've already ran down to the hardware store, and I got the closest thing I could find to a side rail like what they had there, which is this. This is just some 90-degree that they use for drywalling, I believe. Anyways, if you take this, you cut it to size, and you close it, this is actually meant to be bent shut, you can get something very similar to the side rail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out two pieces, and I'm going to measure out a piece about like this, and then I'm going to cut it in the middle because unfortunately our side rail is bent. We have a swoop in it, and any other car that has a swoop in it, you're going to want to try and match up with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut two pieces out. I'm going to cut one piece out of this, and then I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to do a little angle in the middle. And that is going to build our side rail that's going to run along here, and then I'm going to start thinking about up here. Okay, well, as you can see, we have two pretty green lines of tape on the car, and what those are is taping down our side rails. So you can see there's a little crease right here, and there's a little mark, and yeah, we'll work on that, and maybe someday we'll cover it up or whatever. And yeah, it's not a swooping angle, but it's going to do the job. It's definitely going to do the job. And so we got ours over here too. Now the next hard part that we got to worry about is this angle right here. The louvers need to start at the top of the rear window and then come down. So the next pieces that I'm going to try and be building are a piece that connects from about here to here, and we're going to go with the hood line right here. And so it stops right here and goes to right here. Alright, now that we got our side rails and our impromptu roof rail, which hopefully most cars you won't need to do, set up, the next thing to do is basically decide, look at the car, look at the angles of the car, and decide where you want to have the louvers kind of top out and where you want the angle to start sliding back down to the side. Alright guys, so in the last edit, I was showing you guys and the top piece wasn't working nicely, and that was definitely true to the case, and it was very hard to work with, but that was because I had the angles on my bends backwards, and I don't know why that was such an easy mistake to make, but basically they need to go like this so that when this lays flat on the back, your angle kicks it up, and goes down flat like this. And I know that seems like oh yeah, that's a really obvious thing, but I swear once you start working on this stuff and tugging with it and working on it, it's not as obvious as it should be. So I'm still glossing over that top piece. I'm gonna come back to it in the end, but for now I'm gonna start cutting these next pieces, the pieces not on the top. What? The first piece is built. It's so much easier when you set the angle the right way. Now, like I said, this is a lot of guess and check. I actually did cut this piece a little bit short, so I'm gonna have to recut it and do it all over again. So, 3 tries for the first piece, and hopefully the 3rd try will be a charm, but we're starting to get it together. This is a learning process. I don't care if I go through 10 pieces of this metal, it's gonna be a good idea and a good thing to learn. One note, I got 10 of these slats and the supporting bar that's gonna go in the middle for $35, and I got these for about $4 down at the hardware store. When I bought my wheel pack, these ones for the Mustang, those were $300 refurbished. They're $400 new. So far we're at 1/10 of the price for all the materials. If we can make it work with just those materials, then we're at 1/10 of the price. But anyways, so learning on this, working on sheet metal and stuff, it's a cool project, it's fun. Careful of your paint. I'm repainting my car, so it doesn't matter, but be very careful of your paint. If you want to keep your paint in good condition, I'd cover the whole car in like painter's tape and do a bunch of protection stuff, because it's tough on the paint if you make it slip, so protect your car. Alright, on to redoing this first piece and then the next piece. Alright, now that I've got a couple of these made, I wanted to go ahead and show you how I've found a good way to make them is. There's probably a lot of other ways and there's probably a lot of better ways, but since this is kind of a DIY car show, I wanted to show you how to DIY. So what I did here earlier was make my 2 guidelines, and that's where I want all the bends to start at. So what I do then is I'm taking my measuring tape to the next one, and I'm dropping down roughly 5 inches to where the next, the start of the next piece of metal is going to be. And then I'm just measuring. Okay, so I'm at about 9 1/8. Again, 9 1/8 and 9 1/4. Okay, so now I know the distance between where I want to start my bends is 9 1/8 or 9 1/4. So now I'm walking over to my bench. Okay, now that I'm over at my bench, well, that's weird. I got the measuring tape all stuck up on itself. What I'm doing is I'm measuring my the distance between my bends. So I got my sheet metal here, 2 foot 9 1/8 or 2 foot 9 1/4 is what I came up with. So I'm just going to rough this out because there's going to be excess metal on both sides. Just kind of aiming for the middle here. And I'll grab my paint pen. Mark my 0 point right here. 2 feet 9 1/8 right here. Then we're ready to mark our angles. So the angle for this is 54 degrees. 54 degrees, so I got my little, is this called a compass? I don't know, whatever this thing's called. Protractor. It's a tool I used in 3rd grade. 54 degrees coming off of here. Like that. And then I gotta flip it around. 54 degrees over here. All right, after I have that, next is the ugly part that I'm not even gonna show you guys. I'm walking it over to the vise. I'm clamping a piece in the vise like this, and then I just bend it a little bit, and I'm just bending these by hand and by eye, and I'm just kind of guessing and checking them. And then I come back and finish the bend with this tool. I'll grab an angle, and this will basically flatten out the piece that is like half bent, and then I'll kind of press down on the rest and get a nice crease on that side. And then back to the car. So I'll cut to the car now. All right, now that we got our piece bent, it's the part where I scratched the hell out of the car. You want to snug this piece right up next to your other piece. And then I got these pieces of tape. And once I line up my bend starting point where I got it good and centered. Taking my piece of tape and I'm just kind of taping this down to the body of the car to hold it there. Again, if you have good paint, which I'm sure most of you have great paint, don't do it this way. Have some sort of protection. Sorry about that. Okay, so it's a little bit off. I'm going to need to move it a little bit more my way. All right, there we go. We got it in its kind of official resting place. Now I'm going to grab the paint pen and I'm marking the railing spot. And what I've found so far is it's best to just mark the absolute outside because you can always trim a little bit more off, but you can't add any more back on. I'm sure you guys already know that. So I know inside this one there's a crease somewhere in the middle, so I'm going with the absolute outside. Back off the car over to the bench. And what's over here, I'm just using metal cutting shears. I have a chop saw that I could use, but these work just fine. As long as you're not using too high a gauge of metal. All right, and then back to the car for a little test fitting and praying. Slide it in that rail there, come up here, slide it in that rail there. All right, I don't know if we got lucky or we're just getting better, but I don't need any modifications to this one. And so that's how I do it. I've just been following that exact process and I'm gonna keep going the rest of the way down the car. All right, the next step is to drill and rivet these things in place. I went ahead and tried to build the top piece for here, but unless we had a really, really skinny piece of sheet metal, which I don't have, that's not gonna work. So I might look online for like something with a little lip or, I don't know, we'll fill out that space later. For now, I do like the look of these just the way they are, so I'm gonna keep working on finishing them up. The only two things that we have left is to build the center support, which just helps keep these things in line and from rattling on your car, and then rivet the sides of all these together. So the way that we do that is we just gotta drill some holes, 2 in each one, and then put rivets through the side rail and through the piece so they won't move. I don't know any better way to keep these things together other than just keeping them on the car. So I'm gonna drill through the top piece of the railing and the metal piece, and then not the bottom piece of it so I don't hit the window. Wish me luck on that one. So yeah, I'm just gonna start drilling holes in this bad boy. Alright, so I went ahead and riveted the rails down. So these are all riveted together now, going all the way down. I'm taping it down here because it does have a little bit of flex in it. And in the next episode, I'm going to show you guys how to have a little bit of mounting hardware to mount this down to your rear window. So I'm going to give you guys a little view around. I really like the way these things came out. I think they're pretty cool. They look good. I'm excited to see them with some paint on them. The next things we need to build are a center support right down the middle here, and then mounting hardware for the top 2 corners and the back corners. And I want to show you guys, without giving everybody motion sickness, when you jump in the car and you turn around, you can still see out perfectly fine. It's not a good camera angle, but you can totally see out the back window still, which I think is pretty cool. Alright guys, that's it for part 1 of the DIY window louvers. In the next episode we're going to go over paint and a middle support and mounting hardware to mount it safely on your back window. Hell, maybe I'll even get registration for this car so we can speed test our window louvers. I want to thank you guys all for watching. If you'd like to support the channel and support us building crazy DIY stuff like this, you can find our lanyards, key tags, hats, decals, shirts, you name it, we got it. At bsforbuild.com, scroll down to the shop and you can find all that stuff there, and helping support us by buying that stuff directly helps us do more crazy stuff like this. You can find us at facebook.com/bsforbuild. We're bsforbuild on Instagram, or there's a bunch of other information at bsforbuild.com. I don't know, it's not that interesting though. Thank you guys very much for watching. Please remember to like the video and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next part of this DIY episode that'll come out in a couple days. Peace!